Dear Venerable Dhamma friends, we are going to start this Dhamma talk. May everyone settle down for the talk and give the consent with sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Seelavanta uso kottita panchupadanakkhandha dukkhato aniccato dukkato rogato gandato sallato parato palokato anattato sunyato veditabba anattato sunyato yoniso manasika tabbati. Dear Venerable Dhamma friends, we were discussing about this particular sutta as known as Seelavanta Sutta, and whereby Venerable Mahakottita and Venerable Sariputta, one of the very renowned two disciples, discussing each other. Both of them are, of course, fully enlightened. But they are asking a question and giving an answer in a dialogue or in a discussion, and it appears like they are learning each other. But if you see in deep, they are discussing for the benefit of thinking about the people like us. After 2,500 years, 2,600 years later, when someone wishes to know this kind of a question, what will be the standard answer? What will be the authentic answer? So therefore it appears like they are learning and they are in an original discussion, but the idea is to arouse that kind of a question and give an answer so that it will be recorded and it will be in the canon. So now when we are going through the canon, you may meet up with this Seelavanta Sutta and Suttavanta Sutta, and to give a briefing, to give an introduction about this particular episode, Venerable Mahakottita is one of the bright students during the contemporary time of the Buddha, going to Venerable Mahasariputta and asking, Seelavanta uso khatame dhamma yoniso manasika tabba. He is asking a technical question. When and where someone is morally consistent, morally responsible about one's physical and verbal behavior, what is the way he must reflect upon Dhamma, what must be his wise reflection? So if you ask a present-day scholar, he would definitely say, if the Sila is completed, think about the concentration, and once the Sila Samadhi, Sila concentration is completed, you can go to wisdom. Because we know the Sila restraint or moral restraint is then concentration restraint and then wisdom restraint. So that must be the traditional answer. But strange enough, Venerable Sariputta is answering, Seelavanta uso kottita panchupadanakkhandha aniccato dukkato rogato gandato sallato parato palokato anattato sunyato manasika tabba. Yoniso manasika tabba. He says directly, once you are fairly okay with your moral restraint, directly go to wisdom. And he is not referring to the concentration. So that may be the reason Venerable Ananda remembered this particular sutta and quoted in the first synod, and now we find in the Sutta Pitaka. So how and why this kind of a skip from Sila to directly Panya without referring to concentration? This is the one of the aspect one must know at the outset to go before go into detail. And if you go further, then Venerable Sariputta further, he goes, what does it mean by Panchupadana-khanda? That means 5 clinging aggregates, or aggregates gives rise for clinging. And he says, our corporeal body or materiality is the first and foremost thing we recognize as me, myself. And when and where someone is acquainted with or somewhat satisfied about his or her moral restraint, he or she is qualified enough to look at your own body or look at own corporeality as changing, as something in a flux, and it is transient. So your identity usually depending upon the permanent notion. But instead, when and where you acquainted with your moral restraint, are you ready to see your body is something transient, evolving, something metamorphosizing, changing? Or would you mind to take that kind of a perception? So it's a very radical instruction or advice one to see. Because we know theoretically our figure at the age of 10 is somewhat different from when we are at the age of 20. And it is still further, 30, 40, 60, like, is changing. But in a given moment, we always try to identify myself with my corporeality, my body, or my photo, or my image, so that we try to separate out from the others and say, this is me, that is my photo. And if you happen to die, there may be a statue prepared for you. And it represents you. And that statue is not changing. Photo is not changing. But the bloody person is always changing. Even if you take a photo, 10 years time, 5 years time, it is invalid. But you see, out of this impermanent thing, how we are making criterion and mark, separate it out, it is called identity. That identity is the root cause for conceit. And it is a must for self-centered thinking. And when and where you develop identity, you love it. You think it is your prime duty to protect it. Of course, once in a way you commit suicide, whenever you hate it. But that is not the case usually. Usually you love it. But instead, now Venerable Sariputta is asking Venerable Kottita, if someone is coming and telling you that he or she is ready to restrain one's own physical and verbal deeds, ask him to see his or her corporeality is changing. And when and where you to see changing nature, it appear like nihilistic. It appear like something negative. It appear like something destructive. That is why your meditation is utter failure. You sit in a posture and you can't maintain it. It is changing. Not you are not becoming old age and sick and death. But your posture you can't maintain, so yet ever you complain. I sit in this posture and pain happens, therefore I can't maintain. Sounds happen, therefore I can't maintain. Thinking happens, therefore I can't maintain. I can't see the primary object, therefore I can't maintain. So ever complaining, that means you never ready to accept the body is something transient. Body is something changing. And to make the long story short, when and where you to accept the body is something of flux. Even though you try to restrain in a pyramid-like shape or ant-hill-like a shape at the starting point, and immediately you see what happens is transient. And immediate what happens is you become discouraged. you become disheartened. So therefore your meditation is right from the beginning sour in taste, bitter in taste, and astringent in the taste. So when you go to a meditation center, so much of complaints, because they think body is transient. So they never, no one is ready to accept this. Is the thing Buddha wanted you to accept it. That is the thing Venerable Sariputta wanted you to accept it. But you will accept at last. Till that you make all the juggleries and measures and kind of thing to keep it like that. Because this contradiction is because of your permanent notion. And whenever you are to give a radical reflection and instead thinking in an impermanent notion, that is called yoniso manasikara. Ayoniso manasikara is always you think, I am so and so, I am firm, this is my body representing egotistic center, and body-wise I am so and so, I am more young, I am more beautiful, I am more from the higher caste, and I am educated, all the kind of things you attribute to the photo, or your figure, or your body. And whenever it is happening, something happens, if a pimple happens, if a flock of white hair happens, you are rushing to a beauty parlor and make it dark very quickly. See, if the girls are so beautiful, why there are so much of beauty parlors? If the girls are naturally beautiful, why there is so much of beauty parlors? I feel ashamed not for the girls but for the boys. They are also now going to beauty parlors. So this is the radical reflection and the normal reflection. And then, before coming into today's topic, when and where you to accept that the body you can't keep it in a proper posture, is changing. And Buddha gave just example, just a trial. Just try to, after you make your morally sound, physical and verbal more misdeeds, and try to focus into your body, and naturally you never accept any kind of a change, so you expect my body to be just like a statue, or like a pyramid, or like an anthill, and whenever it is happening, changes happening, you complain, or you become disheartened, you become self-complaining. And when and where you to, if someone is going to say, never mind, this is your body, this is the nature, it is changing. And Buddha is asking you to see the body from the impermanent notion. And that kind of a thing is end up with suffering. So, moment you understand something impermanent, that's torturing. That is dukkhato, first aniccato and then dukkhato. If something is permanent, nicca, sukha, subha, atta. Whenever something is permanent, that is a pleasure. And that is auspicious. And that is worth calling self-centered, hardcore. But the moment you see something is transient and something is changing nature, something is not permanent, that very notion is suffering and the understanding is suffering. So, moment you understand anicca, it is shadow is dukkha. Because our thinking, our education, our brain is completely working with this permanent notion in this transient world. So therefore, all the appointments are end up with disappointments. Till you listen and ready to understand, contemplate in the deductive way, or to understand how quickly your bodily postures are changing. And that very understanding is not becoming, it is unbecoming. So you try your best not to accept it. That is why the meditation is a failure. The moment you understand, anything can happen, then you can meditate any hour. Because changing from sitting to walking itself is the changing nature of your body. So get up and go means not get up from the meditation. You can still be meditative, slowly, silently, mindfully. You can get up and go, see how far you can maintain the mindfulness while you are getting up. But if you do not know that art, you think meditation is 1 hour because you are sitting 1 hour. You never know. The mindfulness can change from posture to posture. You can be mindful in the posture junctions only when you understand that posture is something changing. Doesn't matter, even in the changing nature, you can be mindful. So to highlight that only, Venerable Sariputta is inviting and instructing Venerable Kottita, ask him, he or she, to when and where he or she is fairly tame, fairly restrained through the morality or moral restraint, just see the body as impermanent. This body, what you call the body, is, in the meditative jargon, is the 4 elements. And when you go to the 4 elements, definitely you will see it is more transient than the agglomerated so-called male body, female body. But if you go to the elements, it is so quickly transient and it's in a flux. So today we are going to deal further, not the corporeal body, but the feelings, Vedana, Rupa, Vedana. Of course, the Rupa is what you call the materialistic part, and when you are cut off from the materiality and mentality, mental part start with the Vedana. Vedana is a feeling. And feeling-wise also, the total civilization is chasing behind pleasure principle. They wanted to have only the pleasure. That is what the technology. That is what the infrastructure. That's why the present-day political constitution. That is the economy, what we call. That is why the society, without any suffering, you have to have the pleasure principle. And it is not a blameworthy quality of a human. That is common for every living being. So, when and where you try your best to keep the pleasure or pain, pleasurable feeling, and to get rid of painful feeling, you see from the morning to evening which action, which word, which thought you are ready to accept the pain and the pleasure as a feeling. No, you are utterly talking, utterly thinking, utterly working, not to talk about the painful feeling, only feeling means pleasure. So how far for the last 2600 years, since the enlightenment of the Buddha, we have written records, the humanity utterly chasing behind one aspect of feeling. And it is like one-eyed person or one eye blind. Anoma will say, 2 eyes can see depth. 1 eye means you can see but you can't see the depth. That's why 2 eyes are in 2 different places. So when and where you try with the pleasure principle, utterly you are one-eyed person. You never can see the depth of what you see. So now Venerable Sariputta is instructing Venerable Kottita, Vedana aniccato yoniso manasikātabba. The feeling is so quickly changing, cheating each other, interchange each other, each and every feeling of pleasure end up with suffering, end up with pain. So therefore it is anicca. So that acceptance, even though you are chasing behind, your parents chased, your grandparent, you are teaching your children, grandchildren, chase behind the pleasure principle. So before going to the experiment, one can say it is utter failure. It's an utter disappointment. But still, you keep on fighting. So that is because the acceptance, very acceptance of feelings as impermanent is utter suffering. It's a desperation. It's a nihilistic. It's destructive. But if it is the truth, when are we going to accept on deductive level, on in a rational level, on in argumental basis, the pain and pleasure interchange. So today's topic is, if the feeling is impermanent, with that maybe theoretically we accept, and how much it is leading to, each and every feeling is leading to suffering. So now it's a hell of a brainwash. Because we being sentient beings, hedonic in our principle, we know pleasurable kind of feeling, painful kind of feeling, at least. And now the Buddha is put everything into the same bag as painful. Venerable Sariputta also says, pleasurable feeling, painful feeling, whatever, if it is a feeling, it's a pain. So I don't know how much you are going to get heart attack. How much your blood pressure will go up now. How much you need TNT tablets to keep under your tongue. Whenever you are going to contemplate it. Because it is itself is suffering. So that is the topic today under this rainy situation I have to deal. So, first and foremost, I have to remember the gist of the last talk, whereby the feeling is more transient than the matter. Matter is somewhat collapsed and shape, but the feeling, it's an energy, it's a kind of an uncollapsed energy, so it is more transient. Even then, the humanity only believe pleasurable feeling. So easily we can say human beings, sentient beings, uninstructed commoners, utterly desperation, definitely death is a desperation. Old age is a desperation. Sickness is the desperation, because it's clearly indicate that whatever you fight given for the pleasure principle, never a success. End up with a tragedy. So what about thinking about this kind of a thing when you're in the prime age, in your adolescence, and try to understand the pain is not so trustworthy, not credible, it is so changing, and that means it is impermanent. And whenever you are to, that was the last topic we took time, and the example is given is the Chullavedalla Sutta. It's very clearly the Sister Dhammadina and her ex-husband, Visaka, just a nice dialogue. I recommend each and everyone you to read it. It is so revealing. A woman, Sister Dhammadina, is giving such a crispy, bright, short and sweet answers, and that may be due to the Visaka's pointed questions. And he is asking, dear sister, what is the pain and pleasure of pleasurable feeling? You see the question? Usually we never ask, what is the pain and pleasure of the pleasurable feeling? Then Sister Dhammadina never think Visaka as mad. She says, yes, the beginning and the existence of the pleasurable feeling is a pleasure, but the disappearance of the pleasurable feeling is a pain. And it is naturally with underlying tendency of the desire. Because you always love pleasurable feeling, so when it comes and when it manifests, it's pleasure. And you are overwhelmed by your underlying tendency, okay, it's a success, it's a gain, and I am in pleasure. But the end of each and every pleasurable feeling is pain. No one, I think, protest it. And then the Visakha, the Upasaka, is asking the sister Dhammadina, dear sister, what is the pain and pleasure of the painful feeling? For us it is appear like an absurd question, stupidity. But this Dhammadina understand, he says, okay, when the painful feeling arising and manifesting, it is pain. When it's the disappearance of the painful feeling, is a pleasure. So you have to understand, each and every one, arising thing is not the disappearing thing. Please remember, it is happening so quickly, within a split second. And which is called thought moment. What is arising pain, and when it is disappearing, it is transient. But we fail to understand what is appearing as a painful feeling, disappearing, leaving behind the pleasure. And you can reason it out. But to understand, want to experience, it's a big challenge or big exercise, but it is something very viable. It is not mystics, it is scientific. It's reductionist theory. Take one moment of pain or one moment of pleasure and note it when the pleasure happens as a pleasure, pain happens as a pain. The arising thing is not the disappearing, it is transient. Therefore, uppajdo panyayati, vayo panyayati, titassa anyatattam panyayati. The uppado, if it's a pleasurable feeling, it's a pleasure, you are happy. Your mental situation is, your underlying tendency, direct disposition is hedonic, good. And then it's transient. Transient from pain, pleasure to pain, and when disappearing, the tail end is pain. And if you take the painful feeling, and it's appearing, pain, and during the transient period in the middle, is changing from pain to pleasure, and when disappearing, it's a pleasure. So to understand that kind of a transience, and some kind of a shifting, that kind of a metamorphosis, that kind of a evolution, what a quickness, what a diligence, what a vigilance, what a mindfulness you must have. And what a kind of preparation you must have. What a kind of theoretical understanding you must have to prove and verify under your very nose. So it's a fairly challenge for beginners, yogis. But Venerable Visakha, the brother Visakha, is not stopping at that level. He says, what is the pain and pleasure of no pain, no pleasure situation? No pain, no pleasure kind of a feeling. In our books that question not exists. Because only we know pain and the pleasure, we don't know no pain, no pleasure. But Visakha is first handle the pleasurable feeling and then the painful feeling, then he's asking a theoretical kind of a question. It's like a theory for the sake of theory like. What is the pain and pleasure of the no pain, no pleasure kind of a neutral, grey kind of a feeling? Then the sister Dhammadina is giving, is so bright, so crispy, so short to the point, short and sweet. If you know pain and pleasure feeling, it's a pleasure. If you do not know, if you never recognize, if you never make it out, no pain, no pleasure situation, it's suffering. That our whole life is because we have never recognized, we have never felt, we have never made it out, we have delimited, this is no pain, no pleasure situation. The moment in your meditation you understand not the pain as pain, pleasure as pain, pleasure, and you may end up with a situation that this mind setup is not fit into the pain or pleasure, it is in grey area. So this part so common that you miss the bus because you consider this as boredom. You consider this as monotony. You consider this as slimy nature. You consider this as lethargic. You consider this as sloth and torpor. You consider this as uncertainty. You consider this as fearful. So in the meditation, Whenever, when and where you reach no pain, no pleasure, you get up and go. Saying it's boring, it's very monotonous, it's better go and listen to the Michael Jackson, it's very dramatic, or go and listen to the video or radio or any kind of thing. You have so much of thing at your home. Just a press of a button. So therefore, when and where meditation is leading to that kind of a explorable area, unless otherwise you are instructed properly, unless otherwise you are seriously meditating, not for the fashionable meditation, because nowadays the meditation is a fashion. You are doing because it is coming from the West. So if it is so, you will end up with the pain and the pleasure. You will never take it. Even if it is coming, you will never consider as the advancement of your meditation. Instead, you will say it's boring. It's so monotonous. And go to meditation centers. People, those who having the insomnia, they will get better sleep. Meditation, if you go there, everyone's sitting and sleeping. Even while walking, you feel sleepy. That means it is coming so quickly, the no pain, no pleasure, our mind is keeping, dodging, not facing it. It feels boring, it's monotonous, no taste, not dramatic. So therefore you feel, get up and go. So whenever someone is being instructed, and whenever someone is radical enough to understand the desire, the lust, the delight is the cause for samsara. Lack of a desire, lack of a the delight, lack of the lust is the way to Nibbana. We read that as a boredom. We read that as a monotony. We read that as a insecure. We read that as a uncertainty, unknown area. So therefore, how much you are, whenever the meditation is leading you to the Nibbana, how much you pull yourself back to the lust, back to the delight, back to the craving. Which when and where the no pain, no pleasure happen, you avoid it. No second person. There is no creator God misleading you. There is no one is doing black magic for you. Your idiotness, foolishness, unheard Dhamma, and you do not know how to interpret the mental state. That is why the sister Dhammadinna and the Visakha is asking that particular person, and it's very clearly indicate when and where the no pain, no pleasure situation happen, you recognize this as no pain, no pleasure, it's a pleasure. If you do not know, it's worth calling idiot, a fool, a darkness, a ignorance. So that is how our mind is working. So not only the Buddha and the whole army, they say when you are practicing meditation, you are slowly reaching to an unknown area, grey area. And if you have neophobia, if you have fear of freedom, whenever such a thing happens, you come back, known devil is better than unknown. So you come back and sleep with the known devil. So that is why Venerable Sariputta clearly instructing the Venerable Kottisa, whenever someone is fairly up with the moral restraint, ask him or her to look at the feeling as painful. It's suffering. Because we never allow no pain, no pleasure to set in. As soon as it's arising, we make it colorful. We make it delightful. By get up and go. Or have kind of a thing, or hobbies, and all the kind of things you prepare at your home. So that therefore, the day you ready, the day you made up your mind right from the beginning, and to explore into the feeling, so far if you knew only the pain and pleasure, please introduce the third aspect. the third facet, that is the transient part from the pain to pleasure, pleasure to pain, that is called no pain, no pleasure, or sometimes as equanimity. No pain, no pleasure. And it is characterized by ignorance. Knowing that very thing is the knowledge. And that is a pleasure. So this is one aspect you have to keep it in your mind to go deep into this. Why this the Buddha is telling each and every feeling is a suffering. Each and every feeling is a pain. This one thing it is so incredible, is changing, cheating, pain to pleasure, pleasure to pain, and hiding the in-between no pain, no pleasure situation. That is the function of craving. In the Majjhe Sutta, Ubbo ante viditvana majjhe mantana lippati tanbrumi mahapurisoti yoda soda dippani machaga. The Buddha is giving very stock phrase kind of thing. If someone can see two extremes, Yobante viditana, majjhe mantana, but he never missed the middle. He knows the painful feeling and the pleasurable feeling, and noted pain and pleasure. But he never loses the sight of no pain, no pleasure. Majjhe mantana lippati, because this is the part we have lost so far. With the part very slippery, we often go to the two extremes, but when and where no pain, no pleasure happen, we get up and go. So the Buddha instructs, be aware, no pain, no pleasure as far as the feeling is concerned, majjhe, mantana vritti. And tambrumi mahapuriso, he must be a very true man, he must be a very holistic man, a person or woman, to understand the no pain, no pleasure. And the tanha never allow you to go into that area. It is stitching pain and pleasure without allowing no pain, no pleasure to expose. That is the function of the desire. So therefore, the day you see through the desire, you can see in between pain and the pleasure, there's a grey area. It has been a blind spot. And it has been a phobia for a commoner, for a sensuous being to understand. So therefore it is always going to the pleasure principle. So first you have to understand the whole world and the whole literature in the world and the whole knowledge in the world is one-sided. It's developed and researched and published, everything based upon the pleasure principle. So therefore they can't see the balance view. Even if you accept pleasure and the pain, what about the middle area? And that is completely new for us to explore into that. If you are going prepared for that and be happy and be ready with that, it's a kind of a pleasure. It's a spiritual pleasure. It is called immaterial pleasure. When and where you are ready to understand no pain, no pleasure, and you go prepared, the day you're stuck with no pain, no pleasure, you feel kind of a gladness. You feel kind of a frills and thrills. First time ever, I came to know no pain, no pleasure situation. And that pleasure is not coming from your seeing pictures from the eye. It is not coming through your hearing ear. It is not coming through your smelling nose. It is not coming through your taste buds with the tasty foods. It is not coming from your luxuries on the cushions and the cars and the furniture. It is completely independent. That's a kind of a immaterial pleasure, and that is the only thing exclusive for the human. Pain and pleasure is very common with beasts and animals. So if you wish to lift yourself up, if you wish to lift up to the human level, you must understand the pain and pleasure is common for animals. It is called mago. Mago means mruga. Mruga means beast. So as far as you are living whole life on earth, on the pain and the pleasure, then the Buddha is asking sarcastically, what's the difference between human and the beasts? Instead the Buddha is giving a theorem, giving a professor. He says, whenever you go, no pain, no pleasure, unless otherwise instructed person, unless otherwise those who have radical reflection, unless otherwise the person who is having so much of past trial and error, he or she can go there and dwell upon this no pain, no pleasure situation, and there happens some kind of a gladness, some kind of a spiritual frills and thrills, and when that happens, still not you are enlightened. But this is the one area in your brain never worked. Your brain is working only for the pleasure principle, and therefore only 4% or less than 4% of your brain is working. Because it is never think about the pain side, it is completely benumbed, and never you have given a thought about your circuits pertaining to the no pain, no pleasure, never work, it is brand new. So if you are going to transplant the brain, and if your brain is distracted and if you are transplanting, still they have not started. In Sri Lanka they have done the heart transplant. And if it is happening, no pain, no pleasure, that the chip or that memory card is fresh. And it says if you are going to get a politician's brain to transplant, it is completely fresh. He never make use it. He make use only the secretary's brain. All the other people use at least 2%, 4%. The politician brain, if you are lucky to have brain transplant, factory fresh, never use. We also, 96% of our neurons never work because we have a phobia. We have cut close. We have locked it. Because you only specialize pleasure principle. So therefore the day you understand how much the hidden treasure, how much the cosmic knowledge, how much a cosmic library you can expose by exposing to pain, understanding pain, or give a fair deal for the pain. So you may say it is a self-mortification and emancipation and torturing. No. The Buddha is asking the arising pain. Don't go in search of. Without you compensate the pleasure principle with the pain, you will never understand in between transient no pain, no pleasure situation. And giving a fair chance for the pain and see how the pain to pleasure to pain changing, and one day you stuck with no pain, no pleasure, you understand your neurobics, your nervous system, everything is working. And that is a catalytic. It's a rejuvenating. It's a full of charging your battery. It is not paralyzed. So this is how it happens. Nowadays we have so much of research papers on neuroplasticity and brain science and kind of thing. But don't misunderstand, brain is the mind. I am not going to prove that. But I am talking about the already published data. They are talking about what a little fraction of the brain we are using. Even we keep it up on your top, in your skull, even if you are cold and claim yourself as a human, the amount of brain you are using, almost like beast. We never go for the full-fledged. Now we are talking only the feeling. There may be some other spheres. And the feeling-wise, imagine the day you understand no pain, no pleasure, that very understanding, that very enlightening into that very awareness, that very vigilance itself, diligence itself is a pleasure. That is what you call immaterial pleasure. So therefore you may not go then onward to the extremes. You may try to keep somewhere in the no pain, no pleasure, as if you are going for the seesaw. Now you understand, unless otherwise instructed, you go and sit on the furthest end, because there you have the most dramatic part. Now you slowly come back, and you may see the wavelength, but you may become more and more closer to the center, and we are ups and downs there, but the amplitude is less. And when that happens, you can understand your tension, your frustration, your disappointments, your torturing nature, your frustrated, your burning nature will be reduced. As far as you associate in the extreme to pain and pleasure, extremes of the vicissitudes, you are burning the candle from both the ends. It is just wastage. Now instead, when you come closer, life may be not so dramatic, but you understand the pleasure, kind of a pleasure. We will never satisfied with this luxurious usage of materiality or consumerization. Instead you feel immaterial kind of a gladness, kind of a frills and thrills, and it is always available, and it is only by your correct perspective. That perspective we call yonisomansikara. And there you find no pain, no pleasure situation. Of course, you may really experience it in sitting meditation. Many are experiencing for the first time in the sitting meditation, because you can note in sitting pleasure as pain and pain. And the day you note it and understand there are some kind of a feeling not falling into the pain category or pleasure category, and when you understand, that will happen naturally. It is not a very strictly speaking, that will happen when the breath becomes somewhat calm. It's not the early part of your sitting, when everything is synchronized, and when your primary object may be the breath or rising and falling. When it's calmed down, you find it's no much of a pleasure, no much of a pain. Now you understand, now I am with somewhat no pain, no pleasure. That very understanding, if you misunderstand, you get up and go. You will say, I can't feel breath, I am not a breath meditator, can you give me another object? Or another maybe say, I can't do when I go for the rising and falling. Instead, if you continue with the breath, you can see when it is calming down, it is not to give up the breath, but it is an improvement in your meditation, advancement in the meditation, and less and less defilements. So when you go there, you can remember, definitely you will report, so far I used to get up and go, now only I understand the very no pain, no pleasure situation is a gain. It's a sign of advancement. But unless otherwise you go prepared, you will miss the bus. The day you go there, you may sit hours, because you are tracing it, you are facilitating it. When you are facilitating, you see the no pain, no pleasure situation is the one in the jhanic stories. It is come in the fourth jhana. Fourth jhana is the place where the breath is almost ceases to exist. And before that you be the pleasure, the sukha. And from sukha to upekha, not only the materiality ceases to exist. Even your pain and pleasure dichotomy also reduces, and no pain, no pleasure comes into being. And if you do not go prepared, either you will fall asleep, or you get up and go telling that meditation is not tasty, is not eventful. But the day you go there, you find the breath, even though breath ceases to exist, breath gives inalienable, unalloyed kind of a pleasure. Simply with the breath. Going towards that only Achan Brahma often says, the beautiful breath. Breath becomes everything. And if I am to put in single, I would say, Aswasaya Aswadyakken. The breath itself becomes Aswada. Delightful, because it carries everything. Because earlier you cut short and get up and go. Now you go there, you feel no pain, no pleasure kind of a situation, and so far you had phobia. you had a kind of a negativity, you have a kind of a negative feeling, but how long will it take you to make up your mind? You will have the radical reflection and go prepared for that. When and where it happens to understand this is an advancement, this is a reduction of defilements, and this is an endowment, nothing to get discouraged, and that is what you call the Yoniso Manasikara. And there you find the pain, pleasure, both of them are incredible. It's changing very fast and not trustworthy. And the enormous discovery is more than 80% of your time, whether you are a meditator or not, you are in no pain, no pleasure. So you understand how much you miss the bus, how much you miss the humanity due to the mere extremist principle of pleasure principle. So when and where you come, no pain, no pleasure situation, you find most of the time you are there. It is nothing to earn like pleasure. It is your real at home feeling. So when there you come, if your notion, your motivation to see only the pain is utterly misguided notion. And it is driven by, or it is been motivating by utterly misguided notion of ego. Utterly misguided notion of your conceit. Utterly misguided notion of your craving for pleasure. But you end up with pain, definitely. But anyone who go in search of pleasure end up with pain. But if you go in search of no pain, no pleasure, there is no such a disappointment. You are in neutral position. So therefore that day when it is happening, first you will understand pain is end up with pleasure, pleasure is end up with pain, it is incredible. But the moment you hit no pain, no pleasure, you can understand you are the person led your life for this kind of a misunderstanding, this kind of a disappointment. So therefore now, instead, if you can adjust your livelihood, if you can adjust your way of life, just to be happy with no pain, no pleasure, at least the Buddha says you must be above 50. Age 10, up to the age 10 you are a toddler. You can't walk and all that. 10 to 20, playful life, Krida Dasaka. 20 to 30, Varna Dasaka, you are fashionable. Always try to attack the opposite sex. And in the 30 to 40, Bala Dasaka. All the organs are okay. You will be a weightlifter and you are the beauty queen and everything is there. But after 40, only you understand you are a fool. So therefore it says in the campus, if you are not a communist, you are a fool. Everyone is a communist. But if you are still a fool, communist at 40s, you are a bloody fool. In my life, even in the campus, I was not a communist anyway. So that is the way, whenever the Indriya Paripaka, organs come up to a certain maturity, you see, the pleasure principle is only for the kids, only for the youngsters, but somehow or the other you have to support it because you have to maintain the progeny. You have to maintain the maintenance, but for yourself, and that is why people are so desperate at 55 when they go on pension, almost like death. In the Western, there is a severe breakdown of the mentality because after 25 you are no one. You are depending on the pension and people are taken off and your children and grandchildren, they are doing parties and kind of thing. You are not being invited. After 55, collapse. There was a Times magazine telling why these so much of mental breakdown at the 55. Because one thing is your organs are mature enough. And the second thing is, whatever you did, everything is a disappointment. Because you fail to understand no pain, no pleasure. I am not telling the understanding no pain, no pleasure is Nibbana. I am telling it's a radical combination for you to see. When you go there, you find the seeking pain and seeking pleasure is nothing but asking for trouble. That's why the Venerable Sariputta is telling, Vedana dukkhato samanupassitabba. Yoniso manasikātabba. Anything if you go for plan and go against the grain and try to have a pain, you are committed, you have to suffer. But you let the thing happen naturally, the equilibrium is somewhere in the no pain, no pleasure. If you accept that, it's not a defeat, but it is at-home feeling, and if you are going to put up with this no pain, no pleasure, the Buddha presented a livelihood, way of living, don't go for luxuries, don't go for consumerization, don't have self-inflicted suffering, mortification, but accept this, no pain, no pleasure. Imagine, just for the sake of imagination, if everyone is accepting no pain, no pleasure, the wealth will be distributed evenly among the human beings. In the present day, wealth is quite enough for the beings to get the basic needs. That you do not know, maybe 90% of the population sleep without a dinner. Other parties are going for parties. And they are throwing grandeur parties because we are well-to-do, we can do. But if you go to Africa, go to a poor villages, that tonight you also will sleep without a dinner. Sure. But it is not due to the poor nature, but it's your precepts. But many are not under precept, but they have nothing to eat. But who the hell on the earth consider, if you are going to have the frugal life, utility value, if you know how to say enough, how much poor stomachs we can fill. After you achieve something and having thrown parties and kind of thing, you can think about the UN, UNDP, WHO conference and how to get out of this poverty. Bullshit. It's up to you. It is up to you. And don't do it as a commandment. It is not a punishment. Just compromise for the no pain, no pleasure situation, then you can do away with pain and pleasure. And then you are distributing and you become human. Not you are flying person. You become human. So therefore it is a kind of an ethical part. And the other thing is healthy, physically and mentally. And not only that, when you come to the no pain, no pleasure, that is the middle part. In the Majjhima Sutta, the Buddha mentioned, as far as you are in the pleasure or pain, you are far away from the Nibbana. Whenever you come to the no pain, no pleasure situation, that is what you call the middle part. And how long you must season it? How long you must master it? How long will it take to understand this is our real home? This is the natural combination, and once that understood only, your eightfold path will be assimilated. Otherwise, all what you have learned is just theory. Still you are not ready to give up this kind of a luxury, this kind of a consumerization, this kind of the one-upmanship. So therefore, the day you are compromising, you must compromise with your full understanding from your blood. That is why when you are meditating, whenever the pain happens, just note it as pain, but don't stop meditation. Whenever the pleasure happens, just note it as pleasure. Don't stop meditation, and if possible, for example, when and where you manage to see in-breath and out-breath, the second part is to see the beginning, the middle and the end of the in-breath and out-breath. Whenever you manage to see the rising and falling for example, as your primary object, next instruction is to see the beginning, the middle and the end of the rising. Beginning, the middle and the end of the falling. Likewise, the day you see the first the immaterial part, the feeling, if the pleasure happen, just discriminate it for the pain. Pain happen, just discriminate it for the pleasure. And see what's the beginning, the middle and the end of the pleasure. What's the beginning, the middle and the end of the pain. What a kind of patience, what a kind of preparedness you must have, and what a kind of a reflection, radical reflection you must have. Then only you can see the pain, pleasure. If you label it, you can't put that label even up to 20% of your time. Most of the time, the feeling is not falling under the category of pain and pleasure. And there, if your intuitivity come, there your interpretation, that may be the no pain, no pleasure, immediately you get the frills and thrills. Immediately you get the gladness, because now you are stuck with no pain, no pleasure. And see how much it is difficult to compromise and be happy with the no pain, no pleasure. How much crafty mind is coming out with so much of projections to have a more luxury, more pleasure. So much so you are discriminating the world with wealth. You are leading to the disparity. You are answerable. Maybe you are not a bank manager. Maybe you are at the Federal Reservation of America. Maybe you are not a multi-million company owner, but still you are a criminal as far as you are not considering about these other poor beings. They have no way. Instead what you have to do is don't go for emancipation, don't go for suffering, but instead compromise for the middle. When you are compromising, the vibration you are creating, the radiation you are creating is very healthy vibration. It is called good vibes. And when it's happening, not easy. It's not easy to adopt into that situation. It will take years. But it's worth. That is what the sasana. That's why the dispensation of the Buddha, not sitting and cross-legged with the first jhana, second jhana. I am not telling it is easy, but that is not that there should have an ethical impact. Ethical impact comes when and where you understand the pain and pleasure is a kind of a suffering. Instead, no pain, no pleasure is a kind of a pathway. For that, you have to compromise for the moderation, utility value, telling occasionally enough, and then you can understand your unwanted party going, unwanted this association with fools will be slowly reducing. I started in my second year of the university life. At that time I was a radical, or I would say angry young man, AYM. I did all the kind of pleasurable things. And I was very successful. Still I never went to the police or go to the court, get caught up. I have done all the criminal things and all the pleasure. But when I started to come into the middle, it took 9 years without telling anyone how to just be ready with the basic needs. How to say enough and how to live with the basics. It's such a pleasurable age. That is why I became, that was a lay life, I became very happy monk. Whatever I get, I am very happy. I am not expecting this and that. One thing is I have already experienced it, but my aim was just keep the indicator in the middle area, not in the far extremes, because I experienced the far extreme where there is a pain or pleasure, utter wear and tear, utter wastage. It's a dream, but living in the middle area, considered the pain and pleasure both is a pain. That is exactly when the Buddha says, Panchupadanakkhandha. Ankittena Panchupadanakkhandha dukkha. Materiality is suffering. Feeling is suffering. Perception is suffering. Volitional activity is suffering. consciousness is suffering. It may be too harsh. That is why I took 1 hour to explain why the Buddha is telling the feeling what we have understood so far, the pain and pleasure is nothing but a suffering. The day you understand no pain, no pleasure, you make it as kind of a beacon light, and it will never grow unless otherwise you change your lifestyle. It is not ethical value of the moral conduct and the physical conduct, but you have to sacrifice, think about the other human beings on the earth, and therefore calm down and go for utility value, and there other people also can see how much you are moderating, not going for extremes. So therefore feeling sphere, pain, pleasure, is utter suffering. So when you come to the middle area, no pain, no pleasure, still you are not in Nibbana, but it shows you are advancing in your practice. You are advancing towards the lack of defilements. And it never happens without someone instruct you. It is not your natural combination. Whatever the contemplation or philosophizing you do, this will never occur to your mind unless otherwise someone give. Even someone give, you rather reject it because of your ayonisomansikara. The day you accept it and put into practice is called yonisomansikara, and there onward you are a different person. Your value system is different. Your likings and dislikings are different, and more than the materiality, feelings, your very touchy, very sensitive part, and world question of today, warming, global warming, the world question of pollution, you can do something. Each and every moment you try to be mindful, each and every moment you try to be happy with this no pain, no pleasure, you are in one-man army. You can do. Don't think it is coming from the UNDP. Don't think it is coming from WHO. Don't think it is coming to the FAO. Bullshit. They are the real creator of this suffering, the discrimination. But we are poor nation. We can practice meditation, and when and where possible, just moderate. Just go for utility value. Just go for no pain, no pleasure, technically speaking. And you find life is not much with ups and downs. It is somewhat flat. So of course you may see it is less dramatic. You may say it is not so attractive. But if you wish to have a spiritual development, if you wish to have a momentum in your spirituality, don't think it is sitting on a cushion itself is enough. It has to go hand in hand with the society we are living, the ethical responsibility we are having. So reminding that, I would like to sum up the talk today. Thank you very much for your attentive listening.